Welcome to the Stack Supplement Podcast, the premier source for supplement news and reviews.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Stack Supplement Podcast. And with us today, we have one of, if not arguably, the most important man behind the up-and-coming and just insanely awesome brand right now, Glaxon, and his name is Sam Strange.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily subscribe to that notion, Shane. But thank you very much for those kind words. Glaxon is a very cool brand, but I also do sweep the pack house up occasionally and make teas for everyone. So,
so we'll start off with, I guess, just for me, one of the standouts of Glaxon before we even got into the formulas is the look, is the marketing. It's not, it's out of left field. It's different. It's you have seen kind of similar oddball type things with the different marketing angles that you guys take, but I guess none have been as cohesive and consistent and attractive as what you have done. So I guess my first question is, how did, not even the name, but just how did you come about the whole angle with this unique approach, with these, combining them with the quality formulas and stuff like that?
So regarding the branding, we're based out of Houston, Texas, which is also known as, Space City, NASA. So the astronaut space theme that's kind of, it's not in all the labels, but there is like the logo or the brand ambassador or the character, Glaxon, whatever you want to call him. It kind of made sense because a couple of the guys, everyone apart from me is from Houston, basically. Obviously, I'm an adopted son of Houston. But I don't talk like that yet. Anyway. Might do if I stay here long enough. So yeah, they wanted to kind of, I think that futuristic retro style is going to be very popular in the near future, and if it's not already. And I think the combination of the space elements and then some of the nostalgia. Nostalgia is a really powerful emotion and trigger. So if you look at some of the labels, most of them have inspiration from pop culture in the 80s and 90s. We haven't really got into the early noughties yet, but that would obviously maybe be for Glaxon 2.0, which, may or may not come out at some point, the sequel to the original series. I think that there's a fine line between novelty and different. Okay, so what I mean by that is, as long as you don't tiptoe across that corny barrier, which some brands have done in the past, they're high quality formulas, and even though we're having some fun with the marketing, and we're definitely not a lifestyle brand in as much as I don't want to stereotype or pigeonhole one lifestyle. I want a product for someone who does yoga. I want a product for someone who skateboards. I want a product for someone like me who lifts weights or does MMA, or I want a product for someone who does nothing and just wants a health drink like greens, like super greens, or a brain product like Adrenal. You've tried both of those products, I believe.
Oh yeah. Our full review on Super Greens will be coming.
Yeah, how does it stack up against the rest? You've tried everything, I think.
See, for me, Super Greens was one of the ones I really wanted to try because obviously Glaxon surged around the time that the greens superfood category kind of took off, and for me, it's become the pre-workout kind of market, not in the sense of the competitiveness. But when people make the claim, ours is the best tasting pre-workout.
It's like ours is the strongest pre-workout.
Yeah, it comes with conditions because everyone makes the best tasting claim, but it's conditional. Like my favorite greens, best tasting greens, it's not as heavily dosed as super greens or even core greens or ghost greens, but it is the best tasting, hands down. But everyone that I've shown it to is like, yeah, but they've got half my dose. But I'm like, that's irrelevant because when you're saying best tasting to the mainstream consumer, they're not going to turn around and be like, oh, this has 6 grams, so this should taste like absolute shit. They're just going to taste it and be like, this is the best tasting greens, and stick with it. So whenever I say best tasting, I always say best tasting potency or best tasting strong. Switch nutrition.
Pound for pounds.
Yeah. Switch nutrition.
So does it taste really good? Is it efficacious?
Yeah.
Is it transparent? Is it clinically dosed? If there is such a thing in that category, these are all KPIs, indicators, or metrics we should be using.
It's hard to simplify it and say it's best tasting in a greens category, but for me, Switch Nutritions is the best, but it is very lightly dosed compared to the likes of core greens. But Glaxon Super Greens, I think I'm getting the other flavor soon.
It is. It's shipped out last week.
But it's better than core greens, in my opinion. I didn't
Doug, that's fight and talk.
I didn't like the chocolate greens that he did, but every American that I've spoken to said they really, really, really liked it. And that
chocolate doesn't belong in the greens for me.
No, I know, but everyone said that it was really good. But it wasn't my favorite. I thought their berry was just amazing. I thought it was, but yours tops it on taste.
Well, wait till you try the Orchard Ice, because that is the real flavor king. So we're working on the third and fourth flavors at the moment, and it's difficult because we want to keep being original with our flavors, but we also need to maintain the high standards people expect now. So it's very difficult to get that balance of innovative and just nailing it on flavor. So it's a tough follow up.
I think it's tricky because again tastes vary, and they seem to vary quite a bit on superfood supplements. Like my friend Lucas, he loves the chocolate, and he said the berry's better. But then, like I said, most of the American fans I've called that I've spoken to have tried it have all said the chocolate's far better than the berry. So I'm like, but I'm on the fence of berry's better than the chocolate.
I like the sound of the berry. I've not tried either. I do need to find them.
The berry, I would say the berry. I would say the berry.
Yeah,
Give the berry
I
a go.
think I'm going to go meet up with them guys, because I'm in Arlington in like 10 days time. So
Yeah.
I should, Patrick said to come by and check out their gym and stuff they've built during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Listen, shout out those guys, because like I just see them having fun, and when you're having fun and you're doing it the right way, the success comes with that, and I can see them doing that and the passion, and they're someone who I definitely benchmark what we do against them. I don't really watch what other people are doing in terms of these people, but those guys are competing in the same kind of level that we are, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, there were very few. I said this to Doug the other day. The very few are, I guess, performing at that level that you guys are, knocking out products, giving dates, teasing, launching, revealing details, putting together solid formulas. And I suppose that would be my next question: is Glaxon didn't really hit. Well, it hit a lot of the mainstream categories like right out of the gate. I mean, I have to know what was the decision behind going with these specific categories? Because as far as I know, you'd be the first one to do a greens out of the gate. I've seen brands do it, but never straight away. And you came out with like 2 pre-workouts. You got 2 pump formulas. What is like? Are you picking these specifically, or is it the formulator just being like, I got a cool idea for this? How are you going about it?
It sounds like an oxymoron, but a little bit of both. It's a bit of a Willy Wonka situation where we are a manufacturer first and foremost. We're vertically integrated, so we can do whatever the fuck we want, really. Excuse my language. So, we kind of have this sort of balancing act to do between making the products we want to try and then making the products that consumers need. But I think that there's a few different people who work in our team. Okay, there's Michael, myself, Joey, who is the science formulator, and then TK, who's the creative lead. So we're all very different people. Myself, I'm a wannabe bodybuilder. I do MMA and stuff like that. Michael is more about optimization and health and not so much on the vanity stuff. And then Joey's crazy. He takes like 2 grams of niacin a day because he's all about like the science aspect and longevity and, whatever. And then TK's just your standard kind of guy who's not really into any of that stuff. He just likes making cool shit. So, they're very, very different. If you saw us all, it's like, I believe you've met everybody at some stage in the group. Yeah. So we're all very, very different. Come from different backgrounds, completely different lifestyles. So that lends itself. So we are able to produce products for everyone because we have, and we do also have some females who work in the company, just to clarify that. There's some women's products, and we're always working on things like we have potentially doing a female version of the Alpha Stack, the Flight Stack, sorry. So that's how we did it. I think the greens it was a bit of an area where no one in the sports space had really picked it up and ran with it.
Yeah,
when we launched.
You were one of the, like I said, when you came out with it, it was at the time when everybody else was thinking about doing it. I think one of the earliest big brands, or like notable brands to do it, might have been like Inspired. They kind of came out with a big one.
They did, yeah.
And Ghost had mentioned 3 months before Inspired that they were going to do one too. So you came
out last month, didn't it, I think?
Yeah, so you guys came at it right at a good time. And like I said, it was just interesting to see you right out of the gate lead with something like that. But I guess that makes sense, as you're saying. They had all these different personalities. That actually does explain why you have what looks to be a collection of
I
products.
have people saying we use marketing teams and firms, and I wish I could afford to spend 20 grand a month right now on a marketing agency. We don't. We do it all in-house, and we are bringing in quality people, better people, and what I mean by that is more experienced people in all positions to push everyone here. So we're bringing in marketing people, we're bringing in sales people, we're not bringing in agencies, and we're not paying people like crazy amounts of money to design this. This is all stuff we came up with, and that's I think you can tell it's organic as well. Most consumers, the only people saying that are people who we're competing with. So we're not, we might one day, but right now this is all just organic energy, and I think that people resonate with it and they can see that. And yeah, we got like 6,500 followers on Instagram or whatever, because we didn't buy any, we haven't spent any money on it, we haven't been trying to get more, we've just been building ourselves up. So then when we want to go to the next level, the foundation is solid. Too many people are busy building a house, yet it's a foundation of shit. We're trying to get a solid foundation, get everything, all the I's dotted and T's crossed. So then when we do deploy to the next level, we're going to still be here and we can continue. We're not going to be satisfied doing this for like 18 months and then sitting back on our ass. That's not what we're here to do. We're going to keep this going.
Yeah, that was probably one of my next questions was, like you guys have done a lot in the first, you've only been around, I mentioned this several times on the site. Yeah, I'm like, I know it sounds like Glaxon's been around forever, and it feels like we've mentioned them for like 2 years, but they're not even they're barely half a year old, which is insane to think. Very few companies have been able to make themselves feel like a household kind of brand in that short time. Redcon 1 is one of them. Ghost is another.
Redcon 1 and Ghost, and listen, put me very, very different brands, but market leaders ran by very successful people. And again, let's be fair though. Aaron Singerman at Redcon 1, his pedigree speaks for itself. Blackstone and Species before that, and all the things he's done. Prime. Dan, obviously coming from the Sell Your Core group. I was a VP of Gaspari, so it's not like we haven't got the pedigree. It's not like we haven't got the skill set. We're just doing it slightly different. We didn't have tons of private investment to do it, and we did it a little bit different. It was a little bit more guerrilla marketing, strategic. Would I love to be as big as Redcon 1? Obviously, one day that'd be great. That'd be awesome. I don't think we ever will be that size, because that's just a whole different animal. Would I like to be as polished as Ghost is and have such amazing packaging and stuff and the licensed flavors? Yeah, that's great. And they've definitely, I think I've got to give them credit, because they're changing the way people look at this industry. They're bringing credibility to this industry. So I have to shout anyone out who is bringing safety into my industry. So shout them out. Yeah,
I would say that like you've managed to just really, really build a name for yourself, much like those brands did very quickly. I mean,
and by the way, before I forget, also Joey used to be a formulator for Sell Your Core.
Yes.
Formulated the original C4. TK was a creative guy in the Sell Your Core team. Michael has had a decade of manufacturing experience, so it's not like this isn't just
it's not just
this isn't an accident.
It's experience.
Yeah, there's 40 years between us all. So
yeah, I mean, Redcon, like I said, Redcon Ghost both were nominated for Brand of the Year, like straight out in their first year. Well, they all started midway. I think Ghost was like July or June or something, and then Redcon was like August, September. But the following year, they all came out, being just notable brands of the year nominated. And so my question is that how do you guys, are you planning ahead? Like, obviously you are, but like, it's difficult. I've always seen it with many brands, if not almost all brands, that just make so much noise. What's your goal or plan, I guess, to continue this, to keep the excitement going, to at least let it not fall? Because to do so much in the first 6 months, let alone a year, you have to, I guess, be thinking you don't want to slow down.
Constant innovation and improvement. Now, innovation is a word I've started to hate, because anything can be considered innovation, it seems, these days. But what I mean by that is, we're working on improving our flavor technologies across the board. Every 3 to 6 months, things move on. New ingredients come out. We're trying new ingredients. There's a new type of Hydromax. There's a new type of glycerol, the Hydromax Easy Flow. There is stuff on Joey's desk every time I walk into the lab. Oh, this is this new ingredient from this reputable manufacturer who we won't name because, there's no need to. There's loads of them out there. So every time I come in there, we've got new flavors. We're actually working on some different flavors. I can't say what it is right now, but it's not cereals. It's not fruits. It's something different. It's not savory either, but it's something very different, and I think you're going to see one of them drop soon. It might even be specimen. It might even be a specimen flavor. It might even be the next specimen flavor. In fact, I'm going to put it out there. It's going to be the next specimen flavor. That's what we're doing. We're continuing to improve capabilities across the supply chain, improving the label technology. There's a micro shimmer technology labels coming out now, and improving the packaging, and it's just a constant process of moving forwards, and anything that wasn't quite 100%, we're working on. And I think at the moment we're probably, in my mind, a C plus or a B minus, and I want to be an A plus.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the different ingredients, incorporating the different new ingredients. I would ask, because a lot of brands, not a lot, actually I would say a lot, you tend to see them, instead of take that approach of different ingredients, different suppliers, different flavors, they take the hardcore approach and just seem to want to promote, this is more intense, this is more intense, this is more intense. And when you say that 3 times over, can't be that much more intense than the original.
It's like say Candyman in the mirror 5 times and it appears, right? Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, just keep saying it till people believe it, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, would your strategy be, do you ever plan on doing a hardcore thing, or is it just that evolution, innovation kind of, like you're saying with the formulator and the new ingredients, just keeping it upbeat?
I think our stuff is hardcore, Shane, because
I know it is.
What we put on our label is actually what's in it. And I think people will be very surprised to know what you can actually do in America, a little bit different international, but what you can do with a compliant formula in America, it can be very, very intense. Because if you get real Yahimbi and real alkaloids, particularly the Indian version as opposed to the Chinese version, if you do there's all these different things. If you actually put in your product what's on the label, you can have a very strong product. And that is because I believe 85% of brands out there don't actually know what's in their container. That's the issue. We know what's in ours because we make it, and as part of our SOPs, we test it, and we don't really release it. In fact, we might start releasing some just to show people, we're not just saying this is something we do. We're working on the NSF accreditation right now, so that brings with it a different level of complexity and testing protocols. So I also think the consumer doesn't necessarily want to feel like they're on DMA anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's moved on. I actually took some the other day, not DMA, some DMHA, and the real stuff, not the natural occurring, the straight synthetic stuff. And I just felt general malaise. And I'm like, did I used to like feeling like this? Because I don't like feeling like this anymore.
I think the general approach is that, that's just one of the more common ways, I guess. Maybe not easy, but more common ways to market something.
It was a cheap way.
To just say,
hey, we can get a $6 product and it's going to make you feel like you're on crack. Yeah,
well, when you do a new version, a 2.0 or V2, you say it's more intense. That's one of the things that I see more than any. You don't really see people say, oh, it's cleaner. You occasionally do. It's cleaner.
I will say our 2.0 will be more robust and well-rounded. That's what I would say.
Interesting. I do like that approach because for me, the making everything more intense has an end. It has a deadline. It has a finish. And making it more robust, like you said, more well-rounded I think it's a much more a better approach for longevity, I guess. And I suppose that leads into my next question. There are some categories. Well, there aren't many. There are some categories Glaxon is missing from that I would say are kind of big. Such as protein.
There's only one. That's the one I can think of.
Protein is an area that you haven't really, not even really, but most have, isolate, blend, caseins, gainers, or even meal replacement. You haven't kind of touched that at all. Is there a reason behind that, or is you just waiting game kind of thing?
I think that protein has become a little bit. It's not really what I would call a sexy category anymore. I think it's been done to death, and I think everything. I was looking at something, high protein, and I'm looking at this. This is just general food stuff, isn't even in our industry. And I'm like, yeah, it's high protein, but it's got twice as much sugar as it has some protein. How can you even put that on the label? Oh, this candy bar is high protein. Is it? Because it's got a bit of peanut butter in it? I don't know if it is. So I think there's some very good products out there, like NutraBio. If I go and I buy whey, I'm buying a NutraBio, I'm buying a Nutrex. I'm buying people who I know the people behind it, and I know where they're made. And if they're made at, say, a Formulife manufacturing facility, or Astroflave, shout them out as a smaller brand who do things the right way. Theirs is really good. It's what I've got right here on my counter, actually. We are going to do one. We are definitely going to do one. We are starting to get to the stage where people are asking us to do one, which is fantastic.
I think it's a question that, like, when you can build out someone's stack every month, but then you've left them hanging in one area.
One item. It's a high penetration rate as well, like the penetration of protein on the average consumer. There's two ways of, for example, what I'm taking right now, actually, as well as the Astroflave, is the core. The whey they brought out recently, it tastes really good. It's a blend of egg and casein, I think, and whey, obviously. And I do a little test. Anyone out there, you can do this too. If you buy a protein powder and it's WPC80 or it's and you don't have lactose issues, obviously, or it's an isolate, drink 2 scoops immediately, then drink another 2 scoops like 4 or 5 hours later. And if you've got like stomach issues, you know that you've been done. Okay, that what you've got is not great.
There's probably one of my tricks is, like, I don't really necessarily need protein transparency too much until I actually came across what had to have been well below 50% whey concentrate or something.
Yeah, sweet whey.
Because like I had it and I'm like, okay, let's just if there's a blend, I'm just making sure the isolates first. That's all I do now.
Yeah.
But
if it doesn't say WPC80, if it just says whey protein concentrate, that's not enough for me anymore. Like, I need it to, like, again, I'm very picky. I stick to like 3 or 4 brands based on the people behind them who I know personally. The average consumer doesn't have that insight, unfortunately. So they can't really make an informed choice.
It's tricky,
so they're buying their whey protein from Walmart, and I paid $14 for this 10-pound.
It's tricky because, again, like, some people may label it as whey protein concentrate and still use 80%, and I've seen that and I've experienced that. So it's just and it's hard to explain the difference to an average consumer who's probably just taking it for whatever. You just have to have like a reliable brand, I guess, and that's reliability is key.
I'm lucky because now I go based on where it was made. So if I know if it's made at Armada, it's going to make label claim 100%. Okay, if I know if it's made at an NSF facility, I know if it's NutraBio, I know what it's going to be because I know it's Mark. Okay, so I know what he's going to do. Mark goes actually above standards.
Oh yeah.
Mark takes it to a whole nother level where it's like virgin on.
It's like a lump out in.
We don't deserve it.
A lump out in Poland. They when they were telling me about their facility, they're like, oh, we manufacture on these standards and this, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then I got out there and I saw it once, and I was like, okay. And I was like, can I see the manufacturing line? And they said, oh, no, sorry, you can look at it like from afar, but it's a pharmaceutical. They do pharmaceuticals first, and then they started doing sports nutrition later. Mm-hmm. And pharmaceuticals is like far beyond the restrictions of sports nutrition. I was like, holy shit, these guys.
And it's Europe as well. Europe is a little bit.
These guys are serious, man, and they test all in house. It's insane. And so obviously you'll do a protein. I had a feeling it would be a category you'd have to do at some point. Most brands do. Do you plan on doing the deep dive, like the gainer, like the meal replacement, or are we just in for like one protein and be like, you know what? One size fits all kind of thing.
There's a little bit of this is an internal debate at the moment about what we're going to do, because part of me would really like to just do a very good tasting, high quality blend of maybe egg and whey, isolate or something like that, which you can't really go wrong with. Maybe there's a ratio which has got more anabolism. Maybe you put in something like Velocital to stimulate mTOR, which increases the amount of protein you can absorb. It's an ingredient. But then there's another school of thought internally of, hey, I can't go into detail, Shane, with how we're looking at it, but we're looking at this a little bit different, and maybe there's a reason why we should do it this way and do it completely different to what anyone else is doing. There's this balancing act of, hey, it's protein, I just want a good protein. There's the bro in me who just wants a good protein, but then there's the other side of me who wants to do something totally different again, and to Shane, why do you drink protein? Serious question.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, I seriously just buy whatever I can based on the brands around me. Like we used to travel a lot, like Europe.
Yeah.
And I would just get.
But why are you drinking it? Why do you drink?
I get it for post workout. That's literally the only reason I do.
Why do you drink it post workout?
Because I don't want to have a meal. That's literally it.
Okay, but like, why do you need to eat post workout?
Oh, recovery and to get nutrition.
Recovery.
Yeah.
And to grow, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a little clue. That's what we're.
Because I was gonna say, if I had to name a handful of brands that try to do it differently,
successfully, I can't think of any.
I can't think of any. Because
that's my concern. Okay?
That's the issue, because
keep my science guys and this is innovative and this is like different and no one's thought about doing it like this, and I'm like, yeah, but remember, this is one of those categories where it's got to taste like liquid candy or ice cream. I don't think
it's a hard game to play, because I've had this issue several times because I buy a lot of my supplements. And
why are you buying supplements, Shane? I mean, I do too. People are like, hey, you buy supplements? So I'm like, I'm a fan of the genre, and like, I don't want free stuff from people. I want to spend I go and buy stuff.
When we travel, and like we've been based in the UK, we've gone to Poland, and when we go to these places, I go shop and I buy my stack and stock up for the month, and it gives I like it because it gives me a consumer's perspective. It gives me that look, and while I love core PWO. It's the perfect balance of macros for me after a workout. However, it pales in comparison in value to buying a protein and then just mixing in some oats or even some fats myself. Like, it doesn't even come close in value. So for me, and the other thing is a lot of these more premium products don't come in bulk sizes. So you have to weigh up the cost of a premium pre-workout versus an average pre-workout.
We definitely won't be doing a 5-pounder.
Yeah.
I kind of want to push more for like a 1.6. I don't even necessarily want to go with the 2 anymore, because I just don't think with the shipping weights and the way the consumer trends, people get bored in 2 weeks and they want something else.
That's the thing, and when your only alternative is a money-saving protein, like a bulk 10-pound bag, they're going to go for it.
I did that one time with Rocky Road before I worked in the industry. I bought a 10-pound bag of Optimum Nutrition. Dude, when I got it, I'm like, this is the best shit ever. I'm like, I love this. It's like drinking a Twix or something like
about
that.
130 serves later.
After about like a week of this, just the smell of it was like, oh my God, I got to drink this. And it was like, I was like 18 and I literally spent all my money on it. So I'm like, my dad weren't buying me any, you bought it. Like,
I was 19 and I got my big 10-pound bag of Optimum, and they had Rocky Road double chocolate and vanilla. And I'm like, that Rocky Road sounds fucking interesting.
Yeah, that's the one I bought.
I didn't go for it. I've never tried it. I've always wanted to, but
I'm sure it's changed since then, the flavor system. But
yeah, I mean,
maybe not with Optimum actually, because it costs them so much money to just change anything. They never change.
Yeah, I mean, the protein category is a hard one to do. The brands that I've seen go that separate route, try that different approach. It's tricky because, as you say, none of the ones that I could name have kept that product around or stayed. But then, being Glaxon, I have never seen a premium brand in your realm with your approach take that risk. A lot of the brands, even Ghost and Redcon, two similar brands equally as fast growing back when they started, they didn't take the MRE.
I mean, you could argue
was
the
arguable,
MRE is a little bit out of the box,
but that was sort of like a meal replacement. I'm talking like straight protein. I mean, none of them really did anything super different, infused with added recovery ingredients, extra whatever. None of them did anything too different. So you would be one of the first more modern ones I've seen do it. I guess taking.
There might be a reason, Shane. It might be because it tastes like shit if you do that.
Oh yeah,
that could be the reason. I guess we're gonna find out.
I love core PWO, but I can tell the difference when I put that in my shake, as opposed to a chocolate whey or something like that. The other category I feel like you're missing from is obviously functional food. Is that something you guys ever plan on diving into? Because it's with manufacturers being pretty much the same and everyone kind of having similar structure, bodies, builds, and protein bars. Do you plan on ever touching it, or is it just you stick into that sports nutrition?
I mean, I wouldn't rule out I wouldn't rule out some. I mean, by functional foods, you mean literally like bars, or you talking about RTDs?
I mean, just I guess the whole category.
Convenience in general.
Yeah, like I mean, protein bars, protein cookies, protein balls.
I'll be honest with you. Have you ever seen anyone who's really interested in health eating a protein bar? Like, have you ever seen Jay Cutler eating a protein bar? You haven't. Okay, I promise you've never seen. It doesn't happen.
But
I like I think some of the new versions which are coming out are very good. However, if you've got the same amount of sugar, or sugar alcohols as protein in a bar, at what point does that become counterproductive?
But then you've got the same angle. I mean, you took on the pre-workout category, and everybody in there is about as similar as the next protein bar to each other. So I would think you've got the same challenge in front of you.
Yes.
And it is a very, very, very popular category. I'm a big fan of functional food, and I mean, I see more interest.
Trust me, I like nut butters. I do. I'm not necessarily into putting like candy into fucking nut butters and shit like that. Like, I'm not saying that's a good idea. I'm not going to blend up pretzels and Oreos, but I like the idea of some high quality nut butters. I like some of the I'm not sure if you saw that cookie dough, which was on Shark Tank in the see-through tubs. That was really cool.
No, I didn't see that.
I'll send you a link to it. Like, I think there is some really cool angles to go. But now, while we manufacture our own things, we don't have a food grade facility, so we don't bake things. So I would be reliant on someone else, and I would have thought that to compete with someone like Redcon, who can make whatever they want with these guys, would be very difficult. And I think their MRE bar was different again, and it was refreshing. Grenade does some really good bars, which are totally different to everyone else's. They're more like candy bars to me. I think they do have sugar alcohols.
When you get into Europe, it's a whole different game. Like a lot of
I've had that insight. I'm lucky because I am from Europe originally, so I get both angles, and I actually know where some of that stuff was made. It was made in Ireland. Like my friend works there. So. I think that I've been blessed to, personally, I think some of the protein powders in Europe are better because they're making it with like whey from Irish cows, which are grass-fed, and I think it just has a better flavor profile, and I think it's just healthier in general. I'm not saying that you're going to get any of the lipid content in an isolate. It's totally pointless doing for an isolate, but for a whey protein concentrate, I'd much rather have the healthy fats, the healthy lipids. But I think we will end up doing something a little bit left field, but that's something which will require a different set of expertise, and I would want to work with someone.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are going to do the same,
Let me tell you something. Can you remember there was one brand which was pretty big, which got into that space, which isn't big anymore? Can you guess who I'm talking about?
The thing is, I know a few brands who have done that.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I'll name one. ProSubs was one of the ones.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking about.
Because
that's who I meant.
There's a few that have done it, and their My Bar was huge out of the gate. But the
cookies were phenomenal, man. But they went rock hard as a hockey puck.
But the thing is they had so many other. It was almost like someone saw them do it and was like, well, we'll do our bar now too. And then someone else did a cookie, and then it was just. I mean, Synfit had Sinister Labs had their.
I think the Synfit cookie was the best one I tried, protein cookie.
But they were all relatively. They were all very much the same. Like if you
they were made in the same place.
Yeah, if you go and buy like a cookie at the supermarket, and you go and buy another cookie, it's
the same thing. Yeah.
I mean, they can look different, but if you go and buy a protein cookie and a protein cookie, they're almost like practically the same. You just don't get that variance, and so I think when ProSubs came out, a lot of other people did the same time, and it was. Just a lot of people. Muscle Tech had their similar Muscle Farm.
There's a reason people use soy proteins in candy bars, or for protein bars if you want to call them that, because it stays soft. Now, unfortunately, no man should be eating soy protein. In fact, no one should be eating soy, in my opinion, period, really. But especially no men, unless you want to be a soy boy. Skip the skinny virgin soy frappuccino latte, whatever. Just skip that and just have regular cup of joe like the rest of us. But if you there's a reason they do use that in those products is because it stays very soft, the mouthfeel is very good, the shelf life's much better. Unfortunately, whey protein doesn't really. The only bar I would buy if I saw it right now would be the Outright bar. That's the only bar I'd go into the store and I'd be like, I'll try one of them, because I know that even though there's a lot of sugar in them, it's real ingredients, it's real food, it's peanut butter and stuff, it's eggs, it's shit like that. It's not like chemicals and sugar alcohol.
I would say I have, Outright is one of my favorite, and I applaud Mark for getting it out there into the mainstream and getting on, every vitamin shop.
It's not mainstream enough, man, because like I want to see it in a gas station. Maybe the numbers don't work
That's
for that sector.
That was always my issue, was that, in the US, you still get that separation. You still get candy bars in the candy bar aisle and protein bars in the health aisle. You don't get them side by side. But when you get into Europe, it's like they have them side by side. Sweden, Scandinavia.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If I need something like that, Shane, and there's only like a Quest bar or generic Metrics bar, I'm picking up a Snickers every time, because, you know what I mean? I might as well enjoy it. It's the same shit. It's like, oh, this one's got a little bit more protein. Well, I think all the other crap in it overrides that. Whereas the Outright bar, that's a whole food kind of product. And, I'd give that to a child. Would I give a child like a Quest bar? Hell no.
Oh, I've given my child the Outright bar. She loves it. Yeah,
it's real food. Yeah, exactly. I would give my dog that if it didn't have chocolate in it. I'd have no problem with that. That's an old school. And listen, well done to Mark for thinking out of the box on that one.
Yeah, he's done a great job, and I love how
he probably needs to rebrand it and sell it as a different brand to put it into mass market. That's probably what he needs to do.
I don't know.
Because it's maybe too sports.
He's done it a lot. He's from the original Outright. I think he's probably changed it 3 or 4 times. I remember the first time he changed it, he told me. He's changed it multiple times since then and hasn't said shit. So he's done a great job. So yeah, I guess to be honest, if you told me Glaxon was getting into functional food, I wouldn't imagine it being any normal way, shape, or form. It would be something out of the box, and I think that's probably an easier category to do something out of the box, as opposed to protein powder and gainers and all that jazz. So I guess for the last bit of this, how about we just talk about the 2.0? And I know that's miles away. It's like you're only 6 months old, but you've leaked it, you've touched on it in interviews, you've mentioned it on social, and I mean, can you just tell us a little bit about? I don't want to hype people up because the current line is insane, and I don't like.
Listen, we ain't gonna just do it overnight and burn everyone who's stocked up on.
I can't even imagine you would be able to do a 2.0. You might be, but
I mean, yeah, it's I guess a good way to look at it, an analogy. Have you seen Terminator 1?
Yeah, I've seen Terminator 2, yeah.
Terminator 2 is way better, right? So
interesting.
Don't think about it. Terminator 3 and 5 and 6, they didn't happen, but like T1 and Terminator was a great film, and Terminator 2 was a fucking amazing film. So I think James Cameron, and I'm putting myself on a par with James Cameron here. I think when he looked, I'm joking. If anyone didn't catch that was sarcasm. But he went back years later and looked at what an amazing movie he'd made, and Arnold had come on so much by then, and everything. Linda Hamilton, they'd all come on so far. I mean, look at Linda Hamilton in T1 versus T2. Which one would you prefer? Which one would you prefer? If you were a single red-blooded male.
Yeah, man, I've seen the movie. I get your point.
Yeah, right, you get what I'm saying. Okay, so I'd say we have made some mistakes, which is inevitable, and we would rectify all those in terms of the flavoring is going to be a constant improvement. If the super greens is about as good as you're going to get that, because that it's greens and mushrooms. We have fungi in that product. Okay, medicinal mushrooms. Greens, just things which aren't, adaptogens, like things which aren't good to flavor. That's as good as you're going to get it. However, the things like the aminos and that technology is a constantly evolving process. So we're working on reflavoring a load of things. Sedative, as an example, we're actually going to get custom flavors done for that base, because it is, it has botanicals in it which don't taste amazing. So we want to give people a better experience. Especially, it's the last thing you take at night. It's what you remember when you go to bed. So we want it to taste as good as possible. So we're going to work on packaging, flavoring, formulations, tweaking things, and most importantly, getting it out to more people. Because you can have the best product in the world, but if no one even knows about it, and again, we're very insular in this industry, as you know. We think because we understand about amino spiking or prop blends and stuff like that everyone else does, because Glaxon's a big brand in the industry, it's a big brand. No, we ain't yet.
It pales.
We're on the way. Yeah. We're on the way, but we are not a fucking Abbott. We are not, a Glanbia. We are not a Redcon. We are not anywhere like that. And I think that we owe it to people to put it in the front, in the eyes of more people.
Yeah.
So distribution would be one of those ways.
I mean, I've said it to multiple distributors that have asked me of brands up and coming. I'm like, I mean, if you haven't heard of Glaxon, you really should take a look. But so based on that, you would say that
Thank you.
any
Check will be in the
improvements,
mail.
any improvements that Glaxon makes will be part of this 2.0.
Yeah, yes, 100%. I mean, the energy will, the Glaxon vibe, if you like, will stay the same in many ways, but that just means there might be new labels, there might be new flavors, new SKUs, new angles.
So you have
I touched on.
you'll have different flavors and products, but any kind of updates and rebrands will all be a part of this sequel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a sequel, and I don't think anyone's approached it like that before.
No, no one has.
From the sales, I'm putting my sales director hat on now. Hey, why, these things are selling really well. Don't mess with them. And then I'm putting my innovator hat on. But yeah, that's great. But we can do it better.
I think I've had this conversation with people.
Like a Tesla scenario.
I have had this conversation. I said, you should probably reformulate. You haven't done it 3 years. And they're like, yeah, but it's selling so well. And I'm like, while it's a loose comparison, Mike Tyson's, everyone's got a plan to get punched in the face. I mean, everything's working well until it doesn't, and then it's too late to change.
Yeah, and that's usually the paradigm. Usually what happens is there's a black hole moment, and it's the point of no return when you get sucked into it and you're gone. And I mean, we can all think of several brands which have gone that way. I can think of 3 or 4 who really should just kick the can and throw the towel in now, but they're not.
Yeah, so, interesting.
I never want to go stale.
Would you, and this is, if you plan on doing it, January next year, whatever, does that mean we're going to be seeing a revamp every year? Because that's a lot of effort to be pumping out. Because if you do it too soon, people will be relying on it every.
Yeah. I mean, while I'm still an owner, I don't know if you can hear that. There's a massive thunderstorm going in the background. Shit. Apologies.
That's good.
That caught over. As long as I'm an owner in this, if we sell it and we no longer own the brand, I can't promise that, but as long as the current leadership and ownership team are here, then yeah, why not, man? Like we're not even in 3rd gear yet, we're still in 2nd gear, so imagine when we get into 5th or 6th.
Interesting. Oh, well, that was awesome. Definitely a great insight. Thank you for talking to us, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Yeah, very much so. I have some other projects I need to talk about you soon, but that's for another day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shane. Pleasure.